bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
Welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear. And today we are sitting with Kevin Galerno. And I wanted to bring you on today, just kind of talk. I want to talk about obviously skill development. And we talk about this a lot. I just had a chance to sit down with Brendan Norado with the Detroit Red Wings, which was awesome. And kind of got a little bit of insight on kind of what he's doing and what they're doing at that level. And obviously his kind of journey through hockey and getting to where he is. And he had, had some honest talk just about even where he was as a player and kind of what he's doing now and how he got to where he is. And again, when you look at, his career, your career, my career,
his was better
well,
than all of ours.
Yeah. He played at a big D1 school. But I mean, regardless of what it is, when you start kind of peeling it back, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to hard work. You know what I mean? Whether you're going to get into coaching, management, scouting, refereeing, whatever you're doing, you got to put in the work in order to get to where you want to go. And there's going to be obstacles in your way. And a lot of times I think young, people are looking at it financially, like, oh, does this make sense? And if you're going to get into hockey, I think one of the things you got to put to bed is financial, meaning, yeah, there's an opportunity to make some money down the road, but you're going to have to make some sacrifices to get to that point in order to be able to make money. Or, and I think of refereeing, you think of someone that refs minor hockey. Yeah, they make a little bit of good, money, but your hours are limited and things like that. And then you get into junior, then you get into maybe college or CIS and then pro. And, all of a sudden now you're maybe potentially getting a 50-50 NHL, AHL deal. And now you're making a living and you're a ref, you get to travel around and do all that. Right. So it's no different, I don't think, in any kind of aspect, but it was really interesting. And obviously you fall in that category of being a skills coach and things like that. But quickly, I wanted to ask you, was this when you kind of finished playing and kind of got into this whole skill development part of hockey? Did you think that you could eventually one day kind of make a living in this field? Or do you think, hey, I'm going to be working at a bank or doing something on the side or doing something full time and then this on the side type thing?
That's the really short answer is no. Nope. Period. That's the end for sure. But going to your point first, I agree. I listened to that pod and I met Brendan before. He's awesome. And I thought that was really good. And I was jealous that you guys were totally probably nerding out before and after you were filming on different things. And it was really good, but I was different than he even mentioned talking to Bo, Nathan Bowen from TPH and kind of growing off there. I was very different than you. You started this on your own, you know what I mean? And you had to work at that, 24/7, just building it from the ground up. So my answer is no, I did not think that there was a chance for me to do that. It didn't even cross my mind. We've talked about this before, skill development. I wish I could have done these things when I was a kid, minor hockey and junior and college and things like that. But I kind of walked into it by accident. I knew Bo and he kind of introduced me to you and it just happened. I was working hockey schools for you and for him in the States and then in here in London with you. And it just happened by accident. And so I just fell into a good situation. It was when you came to me and were hey, I didn't know if I was going to go back to Europe. And you were hey, we're at the time you were purchasing the training center and you want to stay and do this. And I was man, do what? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And you had all these things summer camps and programs during the year and the training center and treadmills and shootings. And I kind of walked into it. And even still, I feel I still battled to get a bunch of hours and in terms of not a following, but getting my name out there a little bit. And I did that within a company that was fully established and had, a good following. So I did not think that could happen. And when it happened for me, it not that it happened quick, but I was able to just walk into a bed that was made for me.
Yeah. I think,
and you weren't really, well, what's the only difference maybe?
Yeah, partially. But I think to your point, you still have to build up your reputation. You have to be good at what you do. You have to have people that trust what you're doing, obviously, whether it's, your boss, your owner, your partners, whoever that is, but then also the parents and the kids you're working with. Right. Yeah. And obviously anybody that gets into this, my thing now with a lot of these young players that are done playing, maybe want to get into skill development. They've got a lot of money and they want to do something like this. That's great. There's definitely an opportunity to do it as far as purchasing gear and getting ice time and going at it. But I think a lot of times it is not necessarily easier, but you can figure the business out a lot quicker and avoid a lot of the pitfalls by getting in with a company that's already established or someone that's already doing it that maybe needs, because anybody like me who's doing this, we need other guys. We need other guys and girls that can help do skill development, that want to learn, that want to get better, that want to, eventually maybe take on more responsibility and obviously build up their own brand.
And I think there's two ways to look at it. And again, you mentioned this on the podcast with Norado, but some people want to get in and just like, in between, I'm going to stop playing and I just want to keep some cash coming in. So yeah, just because you have a pro career, you could put something out online or on social media and you're going to get some privates and you're going to make your whatever, your cash for a session or two, whatever it is, a day or a week. And that's going to be no problem. But if you want to look long-term, I think you find someone like you that is set up. And that's what I walked into kind of by accident, but that I was looking long-term, you know what I mean? Like, I don't mean this way it sounds, but for sure, if I just went and started Kevin GALERNO Hockey School, like I could take $100 cash every private or whatever it is. But there's no long, like how long did it take you to get fully established and how many other jobs did you have to work while you were doing TPH, like here and there and coaching teams and doing different stuff? You know what I mean? I think if you find a good guy, like that you like what they're doing, like you, which I did, and I learned a lot. I had to learn everything, even though I played I never thought of the game the way that when I was a player as I do now.
For sure.
And you learned it over a bunch of time. I got fast tracked through that skill development kind of teaching process. And like, I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember when you started, like you realized you looked at hockey totally different?
Oh,
like I can think back to my first year or two doing this. Like I still looked at hockey as I was still a player. And then I remember being like, oh, like, man, I'm looking at this different now. I'm not a player anymore. I've fully turned that page. And I think every player that stops playing, they think they're a player still for a little bit until they get them, kind of change their mindset. Once I did that, I think it really opened up some new doors in the way I looked at hockey and skill development, things like that, while still being like involved in the game and not out of touch with it.
Yeah.
And maybe you have a similar story about like when you did that, but I just picture our paths of this very, very differently because you grinded it out for a lot longer than I did.
Yeah. And one thing I want to touch on is how you view the game. We'll talk about that in a second. But I think one thing to go back on that is on the creating a business or starting a business or whatever is, I definitely was the guy like, punching in, punching out. If I had to leave, I'd shut her down for a week and go on vacation, come back and then start up again. And so that was hard. And I knew that in order for this to have any kind of success or in order for it to be more enjoyable, where I come to work and I'm not just by myself in an office or in my living room couch or whatever, I wanted to kind of create a bit of a team around us. And that started with Scott Jones, who's now with Vegas. And then yourself came on and Max. And so now it's been, with Christina and Nicole and all these people that have come around that now are part of this team. It's fun. You come to the office and people to talk to you. And to me, it's more of just, let's just keep it going. Let's make sure everyone's happy and everyone's having a good time. And then adding, Mitch and Trev and Josh downstairs on the off ice side of it. They've got their own thing going. We've got our thing going, but we're all kind of a part of the same team and share the same Christmas party and got the same bottle of wine type thing. But that was important to me as far as building a team and building a good team that we're all kind of focused on it the right way. Going to your other question about basically how do I view hockey? I agree with you. I think I was not the most skilled player. I could skate, hands weren't great. So I'd watch a lot of players that I played with and try to emulate what they did. So if a guy had sick hands, I'd try to copy him rolling over the puck with his hands, or a great shot, I'd try to copy that. And then when I got out of it and started teaching kids, I remember the first couple of privates I ever did was teaching a kid how to shoot. I'm like, man, like I could break skating down because I taught that my whole life. But then when I got to shooting and puck handling, it was totally different. And now I had to rethink on how I shot and how I could translate that to teaching. So for any parent out there, I think or coach that's watching the game, I think the one thing I love doing is watching these players. And not every player at the NHL level are skilled. They have some obviously ability. But when you watch those real skilled players and how they pull stuff off, it's a lot of times a combination of 3 or 4 or 5 different skills, right? And for a coach or a parent, we all want our kids to be the best. We want our kids to be a real good defenseman, real good goalie, real good forward. How do we help teach them to do that? A lot of times we'll see McDavid pull a sick move and be like, hey, just do that.
Yeah.
Well, it's impossible. Like, you got to break that down a little bit. So as a parent, even saying, hey, let's see how he crossed his feet over. See how he looked, we look at that Riley goal. Everyone knows that Riley goal. He came in, kind of looked them off and then cut back in, sick move. But you look and you break that down and it starts as simple as just being evasive with your head. So looking away, like you might pass, getting that defenseman to go that way a little bit to kind of cheat over, and then a quick cut with the puck, crossover, what I mean? Drive the net. And I mean, there's other ways to do that exact same move, but if you break it down in little digestible pieces, it's way easier for these kids to understand. And it's not hard for them to do that stuff. It's just how you teach it and how you get them to do it. So kind of long form answers here, but I totally look at the game differently. Even on how, a real good example I always use with defensemen is how Torrey Krug goes back for pucks. he's always doing something evasive when he has the puck or when he's going back on retrievals. And you'll see him as a small sized defenseman. He'll look up the wall, cut to the net side, or he'll look at the net, fake with his stick, cut up the wall side. And you kind of, those are things that he's just ingrained in his game that obviously he's worked on for a long time. But if you can get young kids to start working on that at 7, 8, 9, 10, by the time they're 15, 16, that's just part of their game. That's just how they play the game. And I think when you're watching the game, pick up a lot of this stuff because it happens every play, whether it's picking up a puck off the skate to the stick or picking up a backhand pass or looking a player off, or, you'll see this on every shift and, looking at what they're doing and kind of looking at it differently than the big play, the big hit, the big shot, the big goal, but looking at it on how these players are maneuvering around the ice is, I think, a great way to help your kids, get better at obviously their position or what they want to do with the puck and all that kind of stuff.
And knowing who you are as a player, like even him, like if he would have just worked on like offensive zone kind of evasiveness, blue line, like that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're going to get cranked against, he's, I don't know, probably your size is my guess.
Yeah.
Which is not big, right?
Yeah, like 6'7".
Yeah.
Whatever,
yeah. And jacked. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're like, hey, if you can be more evasive in your own end and going back for pucks, like you said, that adds a whole nother element to your game. Now you're the best D at getting out of your zone and creating offense from the defensive zone. So, and he's unreal at it. And how many D, I'm sure there's D in the NHL that are like so good, at offensively, but just have a hard time in their own end.
For sure.
You look at a Drew Doughty. He's really, like him or hate him, like he's good for the game overall, but he's good. It's never like he's given up defensively to be offensive. He's good at that stuff there too. And that's a clear point of, with Krug too. And you guys mentioned we're going to do a whole podcast here on talking about your pod last week because I liked it, but like you guys talked about like even different style, if you're not a good skater, what are you not good at specifically in skating? There's a bunch of different things. Well, if you're not a good puck handler, why are you not getting played? Hey, you're not getting played because coach says you're not good with the puck. Well, what areas are you not good in the puck? Where are you not good with? Are you not strong with the puck?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
sure,
What situations is it 5-on-5 stuff? Is it on the wall? Is it in the middle of the ice? Where is it? And if you start to break down what type of situations you're struggling with or you're really strong with, that changes the type of development you can focus on.
Yeah.
And breaking it. So you're talking about breaking down that McDavid goal on Riley. There's other things to break down. Like, hey, what are you good at? Okay, keep doing that. What situations you're not good at? Okay, break those down into small parts and be better at making your first pass. Be better at looking one way and then going another way, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's all broken up into or all inside of skill development, I think.
Definitely. And I think like for, any parent out there and coaches too, obviously, because you're passionate about your team, you want to see your team have success. There's always going to be a couple kids on your team that you gravitate to a little bit more. You just want to see them succeed a little bit. Not that you're picking favorites, but they're work hard or they're underdogs or they played like you played when you played. So you got a little bit of a soft spot for them. But that passion, like I get it now as a parent. My kids are playing now and they're young and it's house league hockey. It's nothing great, but you see, I watch a lot of how my son plays, especially he's a little bit older and my daughter as well, but, and little things that they do. And I'm like, hey, you got to get better at this. I do not coach my kids at home. I'm not pulling out the whiteboard and showing them drills, or I'm not taking them out back. Not yet. I want them to just enjoy the game, have fun, like going to the rink. If they ask me for a question, if they ask questions, great. I'll maybe add suggestions or talk about the game a little bit. But it's very, very fluffy, nothing, hey, you did a really good job of this, or hey, when you do this, protect the puck here, whatever it is. Right. But I understand all that passion and I see like, even at young ages, we played in a little house league tournament this weekend and at these young ages, there was 3 times we had a little skills competition. So they had breakaways. Every kid had 3 breakaways. And then during our game, but I saw 3 times kids put the puck through their legs and try to score, and they're 7 and 8. And one time the kid pulled it off in a game. And it was like, those are like, that's the way the game's going. But that's 7 and 8 years old. Like when I was 7 and 8, I didn't even think of doing that. I was trying not to like pretzel myself into the boards at that age and trying to stay on my feet. Actually, I wasn't even playing hockey really at that age. So the skill that these young kids are seeing on YouTube and social media and then trying is awesome. And there's a time and a place for that stuff. But if you are working with your young son, daughter, whoever it is, like helping them learn how to use that properly and how to use these skills and how to like put one skill on top of another skill in order to make a sick move or in order to make a sick breakout pass or whatever it is. And I think it's really, really important when you are practicing this stuff to practice it with zero pressure. Just learn the skill, whether it's, let's say, toe dragging the puck or pulling the puck around something, no pressure, nothing, just doing it easy. And then adding a bit of speed to it, and then adding maybe an obstacle that they got to go around that makes it a little bit more cumbersome, a little harder to pull. And then add pressure, because the game is played under pressure, right? And most of the time you're going to be under pressure, whether it's in the D zone, offensive zone, neutral zone. So making a play, that same play now with maybe a stick on you, or a player in front of you, or, or a dad in front of you, doesn't matter who it is, but adding, because then you'll see kids pull this stuff off in practice, no problem, nail it. And then they'll get to a game and they struggle with it, and they can't get a puck out because under pressure, they're just not that good. Well, if they practice under pressure a little bit, once they have the foundation down, then that's going to become easier and easier and easier as they're going through practice to get into game situations. Example is, there's a kid that I just had on the ice this morning, probably 3 or 4 times, like blatant clear passes, no pressure, no nothing, and just pucks going off their stick. And for any coach, you know what I mean? That's so frustrating, whether it's off the backhand or the forehand, or they keep fanning on shots because something's off. So what I kind of watched them for 2 or 3 reps, and I figured out, okay, well, he's just not cupping his blade enough. So when he catches the puck, his blade's a little bit open. So when he goes to load a shot, it's flying off the toe, or it's coming off his blade weird and not getting a good shot off. And it was a simple adjustment like that. Like, just when you get this puck, call him Johnny, but when you get the puck, just cup your blade. So drive your knuckles down, keep your hands away from your body, but cup your blade and then just lean on it. And it was night and day. Now he's going to go back to his old habits, but if you can pick little things like that out in practice, and it's hard to do with everybody on your team, especially if you're coaching. But if you pick 1 or 2 that are having real problems with certain things, like picking up a pass and getting a chance to just give them 1 or 2 little hints on it, but you got to watch them and you got to know what you're talking about or what that issue is. Then they get a chance to get, kind of get that reinforced and then work on it. And then hopefully by game 5 of doing this, they're picking up passes clean and they're not blowing pucks up for 50-50 battles or turnovers, and I think that's part of being a good coach is identifying those skill gaps that kids have, that, okay, your hands are too tight on the top of your stick. You have no power when you pick up a pass or when you shoot. So let's address that and drop that, And I think especially for your own kids, like selfishly, you're watching your kid. If you're watching a game, you're focused on your kid, and you're going to see a lot of things that they're going to mess up, but picking 1 or 2 high level things that, you can do a better job of this, whatever that is, you know what I mean? Like my son, for instance, was falling all the time, and he loves falling. Like, he likes just sliding on his knees like a goalie. And and so eventually I was like, this is ridiculous, man. So I adjusted with him. I'm like, buddy, like you gotta stay on your feet. You can't be falling all the time, and kind of talk to him about it. And it'd be on an opening draw at center ice. He'd be at the blue line as a defenseman, because he won't play forward. He just likes playing D, and sliding on his knees like a butterfly going side to side before the puck's dropped. And then the puck would drop, come to him, and he'd be on his knees, have to get up, go get it. I'm like, what are you doing? But I kind of chatted with him a little bit, kind of laughed about it.
You probably yelled at him from the glass.
I was screaming, banging on the glass. But then it got corrected, right? Like, he's way better at, he still falls, but I mean, he's way better at being conscious of like, hey, don't just slide all over the ice. I know it's fun, but like, you're playing a game, you got to kind of like be in the play a little bit, But that's a blatant one that's easy to correct. But for any parents out there or coaches out there, just trying to help kids as much as you can, but it could be one little thing that'll help them a ton at just making other plays and making that next play,
And I think what you said is like, it's parents or coaches. You'd mentioned, a minute ago, coaches recognizing what players need what, and kind of put you on the spot here. But obviously you've been away the last couple of weeks, for, a few days each week, and in Washington and Hershey, but like, is it any different at the NHL, or, and I'm saying this knowing that you had one of your visits, like the coaches were putting guys in groups and you weren't putting, Crosby, not that you were with Crosby, but you're not putting Crosby in the same group as a defensive defenseman. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're putting guys
sure.
that have similar skill needs in the same groups and like working the same things.
Well, it's interesting because that's something we started doing a little bit at the end of last year, but this year we've hammered on it, both at the AHL level and the NHL level, but going into small groups of like 3 players. But to your point, putting players that are kind of maybe have similar things they want to work on. So let's say it's 3 younger players who want to work on wall play. So I had, let's give an example. I was there for 3 days. So 2 of the days I had, 30 minutes before practice, I had 3 players, and then 50 minutes after that. So 50-minute segments. And then, so 15 minutes with 3 guys, 50 minutes with 3 guys, practice, 15 minutes with 3 guys. And the same thing the next day. So kind of went through the entire team. Every single player got a smaller group. And I'd always ask players, is there anything you want to work on? And if a player's like, yeah, I'm bad, in front of the net, I want to work on little touches. Yeah, no problem. So I'll add that in. But I always had every single session of those 3 player sessions were all different. Every single one was different. We maybe touched on some similar things, but for some of the defensemen, for instance, it was being a little more evasive with the puck. So looking off, making a play. For some of them, it was more blue line work, just walking the blue line, head up, shooting. Some of them it was, picking up, and this is a great one for coaches at every age, but if there's a puck that gets rung around or gets sent around and that defenseman on the weak side's got to go back and pick it up off the rim. So it's coming around the net all the way out. And I was like, oh man, now you're looking, but just working on that. And we did that with one of the groups. And that was just suggested by one of the players. Like, hey, I'd like to work on, picking up weak side rims off a dump. I'm like, yeah, perfect.
How much better is it when a player at any level says, hey, I keep messing this up. Like,
totally.
NHL players have a better understanding of the game, but even kids can do that.
No, for sure, man.
Missing a one-timer, I keep missing passes my feet, like whatever. But anyway, sorry.
No. And then in those small groups, this better than anybody, but you get way more one-on-one time and just chatting with guys. Hey, how'd that feel? Hey, what'd you think here? And that dialogue starts. So for even coaches, if you had another assistant coach or 2 assistant coaches, maybe the coaches take the team and you grab 3-4 guys and work on certain, individual things with them, even at young ages. Even if you're working on a half ice practice, well, maybe you take the blue line to the red line and you just work on different little passing things or whatever you want to do to accomplish with those 3 or 4 kids, and do that over 3 or 4 practices, kind of get every kid, get a chance to chat with them a little bit about what they want to work on or what they like or don't like. And at younger ages, you're going to get less and less, hey, I need to work on my passing, but as a coach, kind of things that they need to work on. But that's a great way to communicate with your kids, obviously, and get to know them a little bit more, but also get them some good skill work. And whether it's 15 minutes, and it does fly by. So, nice sometimes to have longer than that, but even just 10, 15 minutes of just working on passing or just working on puck handling in the neutral zone, you get a chance for them to hammer some stuff that they need help on, basically. But yeah, I was going back to it. So we did the same thing in Washington and in Hershey, and it was great. The guys like it because it's more tailored to what they want to work on, or things that they think, that they need to work on a little bit, or just even get reps on, whether that's tipping pucks or, skating by the net and trying to tip pucks in motion, and quick shots, adding movement on shots, a bunch of different stuff like that. But it was awesome. And that's something that, even you take that from that level and bring it down to minor hockey and stuff that we do here now is, try to break up into small groups once in a while, or bring out an extra coach and break up into groups of 4 or 5 rather than having a big group of 15, and I think the kids get a lot more out of it, and players get a lot more out of it when it is small groups like that. And it's not possible all the time, but if coaches can implement that in their practices, I think it's huge. For sure.
And how would you say at that level, like, not that you're going to get a defense, like let's say a D-man that's like a 4 or 5 defenseman, and they're known for penalty killing and good D zone. Like, how often would you get someone like that? And this could be any type of skill, but this is just an example that's like, hey, I really want to work on puck stuff. Like, not that they're going to add like crazy or deception, saying it, it's kind of a trigger word, but like, not that they're going to go and add crazy stuff to their game and try to play like Carlson, but would they say, I really want to be able to just start to add this into my kind of bag of tricks, like little things. Like, do you get a lot of that where guys want to get outside their box or their comfort zone sometimes? Or coaches that are like, hey, I'd love him to add this a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
By next year.
Yeah.
Add this. Like,
well, definitely. And I think like the majority of your work when it comes to skill development and changing your game is going to come in the off season, right? But during the season, there's still an opportunity, especially at those levels where there is extra ice after practice to stay 10 minutes or whatever. Or you maybe that, an OHL or an NHL or a college team has skill guys that come in and pick their brain and get them to come up with some little drills that can help you with it. But to answer your question, 100%. A good example of that is Gudis. So came over from Philly, played and he's a good, solid defenseman, plays rugged, plays hard, just simple, but, and effective. But he's a guy that I always come back to that wants to, he loves adding deception to his game. He's not going to go down and run the power play. He knows that. But if on the breakout, he can just be patient with it and look at a guy off. And that comes with just getting reps in and getting comfortable with the puck and getting, like we said earlier, doing it without pressure, then adding a little bit of pressure, adding some speed to it, adding different outlets. But he's one player that it's always, loves Jensen, same thing, like loves working on deception things and trying to add that to their game a little bit more. And they're and it's always fun when you see those guys have a little bit of success, whether that's hang on to the puck in the D zone for an extra second to find that lane to make a pass when normally they would just throw it up or get it off the wall, so it's always fun. Now, one thing that does suck is when you go in. So I went in there last week or 2 weeks ago, and then they were at home and they went on a road trip and lost. Like they lost in the next 2 games, which you always feel like a heel when that happens. You're like, oh man.
Especially if they're rolling beforehand. Which,
they were rolling and everything, so kind of not take it on the chin, but like, that sucks. Did you disrupt their
the rhythm? And,
all that stuff. But overall, I
think they know that doesn't
they're pros. They're pros, and you're going to lose games. You're going to win games. And that's one thing I realized early on with the NHL club is just how it's just another day. It's game 60 of an 82 game season. Like we're okay. We're all right, you know, and we're doing fine. And, you know, we'll get them.
So they manage the highs and lows and
big time.
Being in playoffs here, like with minor hockey, I've been able to watch a few games at different levels, you know, mostly kind of higher levels, AA, AAA. And something I want to talk about is like managing those highs and lows. Like I get it. It is do or die. It's playoffs. It's important, but managing them. And I'm talking about the parents, not the kids right now. Yeah. But something I wanted to touch on first, and you mentioned, you know, Gudis specifically, he's smart enough not to like try to make an end-to-end rush just because he did a 15-minute skill puck session with you, you know? And I think that's one of the things that happens with minor hockey players, you know, those high level minor hockey players is they're like, hey, I got to add this to my game. So I'm going to add it tomorrow and I'm going to go 100% and just change my game. Like, no, dude, it's a process. Like you said, like add it in slow, you know, he's adding a little deception, making that first pass in non-risky situations. Like you want to really do one of those spins, you know, with the puck, don't do it coming out of your end at a D zone, you know, where there could be a turnover. Like add things into your game slowly, especially if they're new, you know, maybe a new move or new something that you've tried, or even if it's outside your comfort zone or outside your box, like add things like that in cautiously. And I think that's something that happens with minor hockey players where it's just like, no, I'm doing it right now, no matter what. I've decided I'm doing it in this game, you know?
Yeah.
And that's something to be, you know, and I do think sometimes that comes from parents, you know, and they're in the car and they're like, well, you're better than him. And he does this. So go do that. You'll get more playing time, you know, and that doesn't always go hand in hand.
Well, and let's mirror that. Let's kind of put this in with parents. So I think a lot of that does come from kids practicing stuff and like, I want to try this out, which totally fine.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place to scoop the puck behind the net when you're up by 3 and, you know, you're on the power play, you want to try it and you got time, no problem. Right. But I think a lot of that does come from the parents where like, don't pass to him. He's going to lead you in points and in the parent's mind, right? Like
for sure.
If you got a chance to shoot, you got to shoot. And then you see it where he's muffing pucks from the goal line trying to shoot when he got a guy backdoor wide open, right? And you'll blatantly see in AAA, Bantam, midget, minor, major, doesn't matter. You'll see guys look guys off that are in the scoring race that are bad, that are not bad teammates, but they're just trying to win the scoring race or trying to, you know, lead their team in scoring. You'll see it. And it's, to me, a lot of that comes back to coaching, but 90% of that is the parents.
Oh.
You know, if the parents
very few of those kids will do that on their own.
Right. If you have, you know, if your parents are like, man, what do you like, if, you know, if my son's doing that, like, again, my son's 7. So this is like night and day on the spectrum. But if my son comes down the way, like comes down on a rush as a defenseman and he's got on his backhand and he's trying to shoot off his backhand, like, no, you stop, you make a play, you got to pass the puck. You're not throwing a muffin on net off your backhand, right? Like, and those are things, but I've talked to him about it. I said, listen, buddy, like you can't just throw a puck. You're wasting the puck, you know, stop up, make a play. And now he's starting to do that. But like, I could have easily been like, no, you take that around the net, you come back out and then you try to score, you know, and he's young, but I could start hammering him on that now. Just, buddy, you make a rush, you go to the net, you try to score. Like, no, you play hockey. If the shot's not there, then you make a play with that puck.
And at 7 years old, you're getting kids that are strong and weak. And, you know, your son's in the middle. It's awesome, whatever he is. But like if your son just knew, let's say a weaker player and like never passed to him, what would you do? And I know that doesn't happen at AAA minor midget level and the pro level, but like it's parenting.
It kind of happens sometimes.
Well, yeah, for sure. You're right. Okay. You get somehow on a 2-on-1 with a guy that doesn't really hit one-timers that well. Me, I can't hit a one-timer. Like, would you not tell your son, like, hey, you got to pass that? Oh, but it was whoever. Yeah. I don't care. Pass it. You saw.
Funny you say that though, but even at the young ages, like there was a couple times where another defenseman on, again, 7 years old here, okay, makes a pass up the boards, perfect pass, player misses it, comes to the bench. I'm like, that was a good pass. Yeah, but he misses it. I'm like, that's the right play. So that now you've got the puck to him. That's on him to pick that puck up. I'll talk to him about that.
Yeah, it's okay.
But that's the right play. So you keep making that play. I don't want you to skate up the ice through those other 2 guys that are in front of you. That's the right play.
And next shift, if that play's there, you're doing it again.
Yeah.
You know, he misses it again. That's okay. But you're right. How many go to the car at 7 years old, guarantee, hey, when you come around the net, don't, if Dwayne is there, don't pass it to Dwayne. Like just keep skating. Well, no, but that's how, like, as a coach, that's the worst. That's the hardest thing. You're only with these kids for a little bit. How much time do they spend with their parents in the car, at dinner? You know what I mean? Watching their daughter play. So they're sitting with their son or vice versa. And they spend so much time polluting their kids' mind. I'm not saying don't coach your kids and don't help your kids, but just help them the right ways. Don't teach them the stuff that's going to make them bad players and people.
And honestly, man, like I was really, really rattled on the weekend at parents, and not necessarily our parents, but just in general, just watching these games of like literally 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds that I was watching because that was our 2 age groups. Unbelievable. 7-2. They scored their 8th goal. Parents losing their mind in the stands, loving it, banging the glass. Like man, the kids don't really care about the score, but at the end of the day, or a goalie making a really nice save, you know what I mean? Or making a play like, hey, good job, both. Like these kids are young. No one's getting drafted. No one's going anywhere out of this. It doesn't matter. Like let them play. Like let them have fun, enjoy it, encourage the whole process, not just, it was unbelievable. And the coaching, this is my biggest pet peeve, is the coaching from the stands. Like literally seeing moms and dads knocking on the glass, call their kid looking during the play and them saying, go, like get in front of the net. Like, and coaching from the stands. It's embarrassing, number one.
So bad.
And what are you doing to your young? I saw a player in the offensive zone because their coaches were yelling so loud on the bench to them, stop, look at the bench to see what the coach was saying. Puck goes by them. We get out of the zone because their players just stop.
Crazy.
Like let them play.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to mess up. They're 7. Like no one's good at 7. Let them play, and that happened all weekend. It was unbelievable, man. It was,
and the goal thing to me is a big one. Cause if your team was up 7-0 and and they were throwing their hands up at 7 years old, if it's 10-0, whatever, would you not start to teach them, hey, hey, we got to make an extra pass before we score.
100%.
Like don't fly by the bench. They're not too young they can start to understand that like, hey, 2-1 game, no problem. You want to come by the bench or you want to sell, that's different. But at 10-0, no.
Sure.
Totally. We're not putting the score up on there anymore. That's okay. We know the score and you don't. So if mom and dad are banging on the glass at 10-0, how do you expect a kid not to get pumped and fired up? Like they're going to do it, but what are you teaching them right now?
No.
To go skate by the goalie and tell him how brutal he is? Like,
right.
Give me a break.
No, 100%. And this kind of stuff happens. And I think at minor hockey level, so look at that, like, let's say Pee-wee down, those little lessons that we teach as coaches and as parents to our kids are going to affect them later on. And whether that's in hockey or life, but you see someone getting beat up on the basketball court or beat up on the hockey rink. Like, man, you know what that feels like. Don't rub it in their face. Don't do a celly by their bench. Another quick story, but we got pumped by a team early in the season, like legit 20 something. And our goalie was first time in net. Like the fact that it got to 20 something is crazy that those coaches let that happen. On the other side, I wasn't at that game, but talked to my son after the game and a couple of the other boys. How was it? Oh, it was good. Just kind of rattled that we didn't get to keep the jerseys. Like they didn't care about the score. It was all fine, right? Fast forward, we go to a tournament. We end up playing a team. We're beating them. Anytime we go up after by about 5 goals, no more cheering. Not allowed to celebrate. Not allowed to cheer on the bench. Perfect, let it go. It's done. We were beating this team pretty good, like 5-6. I'm like, guys, you can't shoot. If you can shoot after you got to make a couple passes, but you got to make plays. I don't care about how many passes, but you just got to make plays. Yeah. So our kids were, and it was noticeable, like coming in and moving it back to the point, which kids at that age don't do. It was awesome. It was great. The coaches on the other team came up to me after the game and said, "Hey, thank you very much. I know you guys could have ran this score up and we really appreciate, I'm like, oh no, no problem. We ended up beating them probably 10-0 or 10-2 or whatever it was. Like, but it's like for those kids, like, and after we talk about it, you're like, we know what it's like to get beat. It's not fun to get beat. Right. So when you're beating a team, then take it a little bit easy. You don't need to beat a team by 15-2. Like that's fine. But and some teams just run. That best player just keeps going. It keeps going. Like, and I just think it's so, I'm not all for winning and losing. I'm all for keeping score. I have no problem with kids learning how to lose.
No, we're not talking about being soft and like
no problem with any of that stuff.
No,
but you be a sport about it. Set up that kid who hasn't scored yet. Set up that,
And you're also teaching them how to learn about things. And we've talked about this before. Like when they get older, you've had conversation with kids that are like, hey, I know you had 4 points today, but you didn't play very well. Like you really didn't. You guys won 12-0. Everyone had 4 points. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but they're learning those, like later on, they're going to understand like, hey, you went end to end every time, never passed the puck. Like you had tons of chances to play hockey the right way and you didn't do that. So you're teaching them something kind of hockey etiquette, but now we're teaching you playing styles and like bigger things. Like if you want to play at the next level and things like that, and they got to learn how to learn. And keep saying that. We say that every week, but I think that's super, super important. And on that note, like, parents, you talked about young parents at 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, but got parents at like 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old that are, and I think you told me this
like 7, 8, 9 years with their kid in minor hockey.
Yeah. And I'm just new, coming in to be a parent, but you're there, but like, don't embarrass your kids And we've all seen it where we're like, whoa,
Yeah.
I can hear you across the ice. Like he's not listening to you, and he's got coaches.
Yeah.
So if you want to coach, put your name in for next year. But
I think you just went through this last week or the week before this season. I went through it at one point. I went in, I probably told the story before, but I went in to watch a young player, a prospect who was kind of on the draft list and for junior. So for the OHL his dad had called me through a friend and said, hey, would you come and take a look at my son? Needs to work on some skating and some, skill stuff. Or I'm like, yeah, sure. No problem. So I ended up driving probably 40 minutes away where they were playing. It was a AAA minor midget game, I think it was. So kids were old enough, 15, 14, 15. I got to the rink, and I kind of just went and sat kind of on my own, no one around me. Within, I'm not even joking, man, 2 minutes. I'd never met this father before, ever. I knew who the son was just by the number, but I never met him either. Son was good. But no joke, probably 1 or 2 shifts into this game, I knew exactly who the father was just by how he was yelling and calling and saying ridiculous things, carving his son a little bit, joking with the other dads. It was embarrassing. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him after the game about this. I said, I knew who you were within being in the rink for a minute, watching 2 shifts of your son. I knew exactly who you were. And I couldn't take my eyes off him most of the game, the father, because I had to tell him, this is ridiculous. You're not doing your son any favors. So any parent out there that thinks they're being encouraging because they're banging on the glass and screaming and yelling, and there's a difference between cheering the team on and being completely obnoxious. And I'm telling you right now, you're not doing your son or daughter any favors. And that could be for tryouts next year. This stuff travels around, and if you are that parent that's yelling and screaming and getting into it with other parents in the crowd, and, just don't do that, man. Like you said, just don't embarrass your kid. Don't embarrass yourself, but don't embarrass your kid. Your kid isn't asking for that, And I had a good conversation with his father about it. And he said, thanks, man. Like I didn't even realize, I get caught up in the game, get caught up with my buddies beside me. And I didn't even realize, but I'm like, your son's got an opportunity to play, and not to say he's not going to play. He probably will. He's a good player, but you're not doing him any favors. You're not helping him at all. You're better off just clapping when good things happen. Maybe don't stand right on the glass. Maybe go sit up in the stands and watch the game, But those are things that I think parents need to learn this stuff. And I'm not saying you got to sit there with a coffee and not say a word. You can cheer and have fun, enjoy the game for sure. But everyone knows what I'm talking about when you see those parents that are banging the glass, throwing their arms up in the air when the penalty's called, or yelling at the ref. Like this happens daily. If you don't believe me, go watch a minor hockey game. It's unbelievable.
Anyone. Yeah. Everywhere. And there's that. And there's also just like, every time you go to not your son's game, but like another game, and people, like you said, you go out, dads or kids will ask you, hey, come watch me, or you'll just go and watch some of the kids you work with. And I do the same thing. We're just impartial. We're just there to watch the game and then, offer some input and go home. And how often do you hear something just standing there, even if they're not yelling, like, hey, you don't know who I am or what team I'm with or a part of. And like, you're saying some stuff yes, you're saying it to the dad next to you. Normally, if you're saying this stuff that's outrageous, you're probably the guy yelling as well, but not always, but normally, but like you're saying stuff that like you do not want the guy next to you that you don't know who is to hear. Cause you're just it doesn't sound good. Not to mention you're cutting up guys on your own team. You're cutting up the coaches. Like maybe I'm a scout, maybe I'm whoever. And I know now I'm going to take, like, do I want your kid? And your kid's awesome, but like, I don't want to deal with you for 3 or 4 years. Sure. Never mind if it's a college that's like 4 years, a 4-year commitment. Like, I don't want to deal with the parents. They're high maintenance. Like that's how they would talk about them. And you don't get, not at the pro level, but like at the junior level, 100%, you don't want to deal with parents.
But how this transpires over, like, so if you don't, so for instance, let's go back to the players a little bit, right? So players are playing the game. They have their coaches on the bench. They should be eyeing their coaches. They should be listening to their coaches. They should be dialed into the game. If there's something that goes off, maybe the coach isn't a great coach. Maybe it's making poor decisions. That's fine. Deal with it after the game. And if a player has an issue with ice time or the way they were using that game, then that player, especially as you get into like 11, even 9, 10, 11, 12, start having your young son, daughter, go talk to the coach. And we said this many times in this podcast. You can go with them. You can help them by doing a little bit of a role play beforehand. I'm the coach. What do you want to ask me type thing? And then let them go and talk. Let them go and talk to the coach. Hey, why? I just want to know, what do I need to do to get on the power play? Or what am I doing that's taking away ice time from me? What do I need to get better on? And get them to go start those interactions, because what happens is they don't do that. Then they get into Bantam. Then they get into midget, and they're still not doing that. So mom's sending emails, dad's sending emails after games. I want to meet. This is going on. The kid's in the middle of the whole thing, not being accountable for it, not going to talk to the coach. So then what happens when they get to pro, then who's the one they're calling? Not mom and dad. Now it's the agent. And we've had this happen like clear as day at pro level where the kid's sitting in the locker room, 25-year-old kids or 21-year-old kids sitting in the locker room, and the coach gets a call from the agent. And it's like, the kid's 30 feet away from me. Why is he not coming in here to talk to me about this? But no, he'll text the agent. Agent will call the GM or the coach. What's going on here? It's ridiculous. But that's like started at the young ages where they're not equipped to go talk to the coach and say, listen, like, I'm not happy with how I'm playing. I'm not happy with what's going on. What do I need to do? Give me can I get some answers here? And maybe you're not going to like what you're going to hear, but there's a reason why you're not getting ice time. There's a reason why you got cut. There's a reason why you're not on the power play.
Even if it's not a good reason, he's the coach. It's the reason.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you believe you should be on the first power play, and maybe you should go, you know what I mean? Or you don't penalty kill, or you're missing shifts every period. Like, it's how it's going to be till the end of the season if you don't go and ask.
For sure.
Whether it's right or wrong, the coach, you don't think I can kill penalties. So why wouldn't I want to go find out? Even if I can, I could be the best penalty killer. Like, hey, why am I not killing penalties? Well, whatever your reason is as a coach, like, do that. And if you want to play, do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's don't not do it because mom and dad said, no, don't do it. Like, do it. If you want to play.
Yeah.
You know, the car ride's not getting you any extra ice time.
No. And that's the thing, man. Like, I think you, and to your point, if it may be political, it totally could be, but make that coach answer that question. Yeah. And if it doesn't change in a game or two, then make him answer it again, and go through that process of like, if you want something, it's that old, saying like the squeaky wheel, but yeah, man, if you want to get greased up, go talk to the coach, get some answers. Then they could be complete made up bullcrap answers, but at least you're making him give you answers on why you're not playing or what you need to do to get better. And if they say you got to get better at picking up passes on your backhand, or you got to get quicker in your skating, work on it. And say, hey, this is what I've been doing, coach. Hopefully you've been noticing I've been working hard at this, And
we just said, half hour ago, whatever it was, like, find out what you're not doing, what skills you need to get better at. Perfect. Your coach just told you. Yeah. So now you're going to, whether it's at practice and you're asking the assistant coach to fire pucks at you, or you have the luxury of going to some extra skill sessions. Like, now you're going to you and saying, hey, my coach says I'm not good at this. We already said we love when guys come in and say, you know what I mean? So it's for sure. It's kind of like a train effect. Like, one thing, okay, you've talked to him. Now now you go to the skill guy or the assistant coach, whatever. And now it's like a step by step, like, get better at it.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too, that I have a bit of an issue with as well, is a lot of times this will happen and players won't do anything. And then we'll talk to the parents, and parents are like, I don't get it. I don't know why he's not playing.
It was the worst year ever.
I don't know. And then we go watch the kid play and we're like, he doesn't deserve ice time. He's scared of the puck, or he does not want to engage with anybody, or he plays the perimeter, or he never passes, or whatever it is. Right. Like, as again, we go to these games pretty unbiased, and especially the players we work with, we're not hard on them, but we have expectations and we'd like to see them play a certain way, or like what we know that they can play, or what they're capable of. But sometimes I'll go to games and I'm like, I wouldn't play him either. And having that conversation with the parents, like, I don't know what you're seeing right now, but as far as hockey terms, she doesn't deserve to play. Like, they're not engaged. I don't know if you saw them on the bench. They're joking around on the bench. They missed one shift. They caught on late because they weren't even focused on when they're up next. Like, there's all the body language sucks. Every time they can pull off the ice, they're putting their arms in the air. I mean, what would you do as a coach? And a lot of times the parents are like, I didn't really look at it that way. No, I know, because you love your kid and this is okay. You're passionate about your kid. You want your kid to do well. You're seeing all the really good things your kid does. Like, see how they made that pass, Well, yeah, but it wasn't really a good pass. It kind of accidentally got there. That wasn't the play. And
sometimes the parents not looking at Johnny. They're so busy looking at the other guy, what he's not good at and how he messes up, that you're not looking at your own son making those mistakes. And we said, like, it's stop looking at the other kids and making sure that you got more points than them, and and just focus on what you're doing and making your kid better, and make sure he's having fun, being a good person, good teammate. Yeah. But it's,
and it's funny because I wanted to chat about this with parents a little bit too, because I'm not perfect by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. I've just been around it for a long time as a non-parent, and I saw a lot of things go on that I'm like, man, and maybe sometimes I'm a little bit, not too hard, but like, you got to carry your own bag. You got to get dressed on your own. You got to get undressed on your own. Like,
we won't ask Jenna.
If you're missing a piece of equipment, that's on you. Like, you got to check your bag. I'll help. Obviously, I'll make sure that stuff's getting done because they're young. But man, I'm hoping that if I can establish this now, then down the road, they're okay. They can figure out how to get their gear on and off and all that kind of stuff, you know? And I think I see it all the time, and it's crazy how much parents do for their kids. And I'm talking about like getting them undressed, undoing their skate laces. Like, come on, you can't undo shoes. Really? Like, you know, things like, let them do that. I know it takes an extra 5-10 minutes for me to get out of the rink because they're slow. Let them do it. You know, it's going to save you headaches down the road, but it's unbelievable, you know, and filling up water bottles and double checking this, double checking that. Like, just leave them, man. They're going to be fine. And let them become a little bit more independent, right? Especially, and again, this has nothing to do with hockey. To me, this has everything to do with life and just being able to like carry their own school bag to school, get on the bus, you know what I mean? All those little things that we hope our kids are going to be able to do and do well, you know, and not mess up. But if you're doing everything for them, there's no chance, you know. And then obviously when there is conflict, who's going to resolve that conflict? It's not going to be the kid.
No,
it's going to be the parent. And then, you know, I think you're just setting things up. So I don't want to soapbox a little bit right now, but I just think it's really important because, man, some of these kids have tons of potential and not even just athletically. It's awesome. And if they just had, you know, a little bit more accountability at times, a little bit more, you know, independence, I think that would go a long, long way for everything, development, their success, all that kind of stuff. And
the really, really like crazy part of it is like with these older minor hockey kids, you're actually hurting your kid. You're not even helping them. You're hurting them. You're talking about some of those parenting things about like making them pack their lunch, making them pack their bag. Though that's one thing. The other side of it is, hey, you want your kid to play, you're hurting them. So there's two kind of like those are at the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But you know, once you're through that parenting phase of it, well, just let your kid do his thing or her thing and try to, you know, play if they want to play or whatever.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's I can't go to a game. Like, I don't know. When's the last time, let me ask you this. You went to a hockey game and there wasn't one person or one thing that a kid did, whether it's like banging his stick when, you know, or even like somebody else scores and doesn't go to the pile and goes to the bench, like bad body language because they didn't pass it to him. They shot it and scored instead. Or like, there's always something every time we leave a game where I'm like, holy, that's way bigger than it seems. Or, you know, or there's a parent acting like this, or the kid's acting like this, or the coach is doing this, or whatever it is. There is something. Not saying, like you said, we're not perfect. And if I was in that position, I would make different mistakes or the same mistakes for sure. But just trying to limit those things and
I think part of that too, though, falls on the coaches, unfortunately, right? Like you see your kid smack a stick, pull them aside, like, listen, we don't do that. Like we had, again, these young kids, like just going hard at a kid and blatantly body checking a kid to get the puck off. I'm like, you don't do that. Or blatantly going at the goalie when the goalie already had the puck froze, and like, you know, and having that conversation when they come on the bench, like, you know why you got that penalty, or you know you shouldn't do that. Goalie had the puck, whistle blows, leave him alone. You know that. Like that's part of, you know. Another quick story though, at the end of this tournament, we ended up losing in the finals. Really good game, a lot of fun. It was good. One of the kids, they got, you know, the first place team got a little trophy. Our team got a little trophy, which was fine. And one of the kids like, this isn't even silver. This is just plastic. That's what he said. No, just being an innocent kid, whatever, like this trophy sucks basically. Right. Like, okay, fine. So we get in the locker room and I addressed the team. I'm like, you guys played awesome. I was very proud of you all weekend. You worked hard. It was a very good weekend. Everybody which they did. It was great. And then I addressed this trophy thing and I said exactly what had happened and say who the kid was. I just said, this was said on the way out. And I don't know who said it, but I just heard it. And I said, this doesn't represent a trophy. This doesn't represent plastic or metal. It doesn't represent any of that. What does this represent? And I asked the kids this, right? And I'm like, you guys deserve something. You guys worked hard. You won all your games. You got to the championship game, played a really good game, lost by a goal or two. I mean, this is awesome, you know, and what does this represent? You know, and a couple of kids like, oh, hard work and teamwork. I'm like 100%. So this could be made out of garbage can material, plastic, toilet paper. Doesn't matter. You guys can put this on your dresser and you can say, you know what, we worked hard. We got to the finals of this tournament. It's pretty cool. That's what this represents, you know, but like and the kids were like giving answers. They were involved in the conversation, obviously. And I wasn't mad about it at all, but I was like, you know, those are like little things that I agree. We've got a lot of crappy medals and crappy like things over the years with ribbons and all this kind of stuff growing up. But I look back at some track and field ribbon that I had when I was young. That was cool. I remember winning the 400. I remember, you know, like the ribbon means nothing like material wise, but you know, that has some meaning to me where, you know what, I remember being at that track meet, or I remember whatever that was, you know? But again, those messages being sent to those kids, hopefully early on, where next time that kid wins a trophy, no matter what it is, if it's a ribbon, whatever, you know, a medal, doesn't matter. It's like, oh, this is cool. This was a good tournament, or I won the MVP of this game. That's, you know, that's good. Like, so it's just like, again, I'm not perfect at all, but like just trying to teach these young, you know, for me, when I'm coaching a young kids team, no matter what age it is, the most important things for me are kids being in the locker room, having some time together, getting dressed, getting ready, being focused on the game, playing hard, working hard. I don't care what the score is. Doesn't matter to me at all, especially in minor hockey. Is, you know, as you get older, obviously it's going to become a little bit more important. But for the young kids, like if you came out of that game, you worked hard and you lost, I'm okay with it. Yeah, we made mistakes and maybe we could have that one back. But
and don't get me wrong, like we kind of mentioned this before, like we're not saying everything's funsies. Like, winning becomes important as you get older, and you know what I mean? There's lessons to take away from losing, but there's a time and a place as you get older to be a little down if you lose, or you know what I mean? Not that you're banging your stick, but then it becomes a lesson in like, hey, you got to turn the page. And now you're not, you know, sitting in your room upset for 3 days, you know, take an hour or whatever you need, you know, and then by the time you get out of the shower after the game, or by the time you get some food after, you got to pop out of it and start being positive again, you know, and just because we've been so negative, a little bit negative, talking, I was just on the ice with some young kids yesterday, just a group of, you know, whatever, 7, 8 kids. And, one of the kids was new, and he actually came up to me before. He's like, "Oh, I've never been out with you guys before." I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's going on, buddy? How's it going? Whatever." And I'm standing there at one point, like, you know, halfway through the session, and all of a sudden a puck just like goes right by my face, and I'm just like helping the kids in line, and he happened to be in front of the net, just flipping pucks like away from the net, and luckily it missed me, whatever. And I'm like, hey, like you can't do that, whatever. So I kind of went right eye to eye with him. Like, hey, buddy, you cannot shoot pucks like that, especially when you're not looking where they're going, whatever. It's like, yeah, okay. Like, don't do that anymore. No problem. He was really good about it. He was great. I look over in line, and a second later, or not a second later, 10, 15 minutes later, and he's tripping a kid. Now I don't see what happened right before. We've all been with enough kids before to know, like, maybe that kid said something and I didn't see it. I have no idea. But I went to him like, hey, you know, go through the thing. Did he do anything to you? Whatever. He's like, no, I just tripped him for fun. I'm like, okay, well, you touch anyone else with your stick, you're going to lose it. Go through the whole thing. The point of this story is get off the ice, and there happens to be a mom there waiting. I have a pretty good idea of whose mom it is. And, but I'd never met her before. Hey, I'm so-and-so's mom. You know, I just wanted to see what happened. She didn't start like losing it. And like, you told my kid, she said, hey, I just want to see what happened. I'm like, well, this is what happened both times. She's like, yeah, I kind of thought that was it. Like, been having some stuff with him. Just wanted to get the whole story so that we could reiterate those things for next time he comes out or whatever. Like, yeah, this is it. She wasn't upset. She didn't come and say, hey, you didn't talk to the other boy. Like, you only talked to my son. Like, she was awesome. So parents, like you're saying, are using that. She took it as a learning thing. Like, hey, if we're going to send you back out to TPH or wherever else and spend the money, like, you can't do that stuff. Yeah. And she did it the right way, you know, and the next step would have been for him to apologize or whatever, but he wasn't there. She did awesome. But if they did it again, maybe, but she was great. And for parents, sometimes just saying, hey, this happened. It's okay. Mistakes are made. How can we help him learn from this? Because like we said, we spend a small time with these kids and they spend all their time with these kids. So she's going to take that and, you know, use that at home, which is probably what you would do. If your kid got in trouble at school, you would figure out what happened, why, what he did or she did, and then take it home and
and how often, you know, and again, how often do we, you know, do you get emails, texts, whatever from parents that are mad because of what their 5-year-old told them happened at school or happened at the rink or happened at the base, and they're taking their 5, 6, 7-year-old story and basically telling that other parent, this is bull. I can't believe this happened. What, instead of finding out what the story is, what happened, you know, and do a little bit of homework on it. Okay. Like, yeah, he was hit first and then he hit him back. And okay, that makes sense. But there's always something to the story, right? And whether that's right or wrong doesn't matter. But, you know, I have a hard time taking my kids' stories at face value just because they're young. They get mixed up a little bit. It's probably accurate to some point.
You hear it 4 hours later, which is or whatever.
For sure, you know? Right? And the best, my son doesn't lie. Oh, okay. I lie. Like, of course, everyone's going to have, like, it's going to get swayed a little bit in his favor, I'm sure, if he's telling me the story. But yeah, going through that whole process. And another thing too, on a positive note, the one thing I told all our kids at the end of this whole tournament was the one thing, you know, who should you all be thanking when you leave the rink today in the car ride home, when you guys get home, for allowing you to do this and play in a tournament, play hockey, all this stuff, right? And everyone's obviously your parents. But I think as much as we're harping on the parents right now, I think there's every single parent has their heart in the right place. They love their kid. They want their kid to play. They want their kid to be good. They want their kid to have success. And I understand that 100%. And I think it's awesome. I just think at the end of the day, we need to also sometimes just take ourselves away from how much we love our kid and look at the big picture and not be so biased on our kid and our kid's success, and just look at the whole thing and how we can help them get better at whatever they're doing. But at the end of the day, parents do sacrifice a lot, whether it's time, money, missing other things that they could be going to. I'm sure Friday night out for dinner with some friends is way more fun than going to the rink sometimes at 7:00 out in, the boonies, right? Trying to play, right? So
no, and I think very few, if any, are malicious. They're just, I can't imagine when you get to, let's say, that minor midget or, that higher level and your kids are right there, scholarships and draft and all that stuff. Like, I can't imagine how much emotion goes into it and how frustrated you get when you know that your kid can do it. So they don't, none of them have a, generally not doing it because they're like malicious. They just get caught up in it.
For sure.
So taking a step back, or no different than the school bus. Like, hey, Johnny comes home and I got hit on the school bus. Like you said, don't overreact right away. Get the story from your son or daughter and then find out all the other details maybe they forgot or left out, and then react. When you see a shift out on the ice, don't react right away. Like, if your kid's not out there for the first shift, and we've seen this, parents go and bang on the glass at the bench. You're like, why is it, like, just wait, that's drastic. But like, just wait, find out, what I mean? Don't send a message as your son's not even out to the car yet. Don't text the coach before he even gets the car and you find out what happened. Maybe he told the coach something. He spoke to the coach how he shouldn't. Yeah. I'd want my kid to be sat if he told the coach to go pound sand.
Sure.
Like, you shouldn't play.
Yeah.
You're going to miss a couple shifts or whatever. So just take a breath before you do that. Cause like I said, their heart's in the right place. Or you said that, but just take a minute and digest.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right. A couple things I wanted to just touch on to finish up, but, was when, like, we talk about this all the time. And I've been watching, like, some of this, people ask, oh, who's your favorite team? Obviously I definitely root for the Cavs because I work for them and know the guys, and it's awesome. But I love watching good games. Like, I like watching good hockey games, whether it's a 4-2 game or a 5-0 game or a 1-1 game, doesn't matter. But games that are just like entertaining, fun to watch, and obviously players, that are showing off some skill, obviously. And these guys have been getting a ton of like pump up and recognition. But I went through and I was watching shifts on Cale Makar. So defenseman for Colorado, young guy, first, rookie in the league, obviously. And I know Quinn Hughes is in that same kind of, category, obviously, as a young rookie who's doing really, really well. But I ended up happen to watch some of his shifts, and just the stuff that he's doing right now, as far as just his puck control, his head up play, his eyes are up the whole time he walks the blue line. He's making smart plays. He's getting points. Obviously he's on a good team, but when you look at a player like that and just the stuff he's doing, and now these young guys like Quinn Hughes and Jack Hughes and all these guys, how is that happening? Right. So where is this coming from? How are they getting so good? And I guess it's more of a question for you. And I think we know the answer as far as what these guys have done in the last kind of almost decade of these young players coming in. You look at kind of almost that, let's say, I'd say even like Matthews, that Horvat, the Konechny's, all those guys in that kind of, last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, even, what are they doing? Like what kind of stuff are they doing on top of just playing for their teams?
I think it can be a lot of things, but I think first of all, like if you talk to their parents and them as kids, like they're well put together and they're not a train, you know what I mean? They're at that level acting like pros. Yeah. I think we can look at this like, hey, how does a minor midget become successful in their first year in an OHL team? You know what I mean? And the same way a OHL kid jumps up to the NHL, I think they're acting like pros, and they've probably, some of them are just good on their own and have parenting brought up, but some of them have other guys that are like, whether it's somebody like us or an agent or an advisor that are like, hey, you got to do these, you got to start eating right. You got to, and that's not at 18 after they've gotten drafted and when they're in the NHL, went through the training camp, like for years, they've been getting coached on like the right way to do things and being a good person and a good teammate. You know what I mean? And I think it's a process, is basically, like, to sum it up, it's a long process. It takes time. And these guys turn pro at 18, just like flipped a switch, and all of a sudden they were good. They were good at hockey, and they were good at a lot of those non on ice related skills and things before that.
Well, and I think that's a really good point. Because I think if players tidy up their sleep habits, their eating habits, their workout habits, and start getting that stuff, and kind of we say being a pro, being on time, eating right, sleeping, getting your 7-8 hours of sleep a night, that is huge for long-term development, obviously. But they get that stuff hammered now in major, junior, or college. The pro, it's not an issue. They've got that time management down. They know what they're doing. They know what they're putting in their body. And I mean, they're picking their spots. Fun, don't get me wrong, right? But they're more dialed in.
And they got less likely to feel overwhelmed when they get there.
Yeah.
No different than, let's say you have a bantam then midget kid that gets drafted and they're on their own for the first time, first week in a billet's house. Maybe you have amazing billets, maybe you have great billets, but they're a little less hands-on. So you have to cook your own meals or you have to, do things. But like, how overwhelmed is that kid going to feel first time living in North Bay? You know what I mean? Playing for them. And he hasn't never had to make his lunch before, or all of a sudden the billets are working, or they had something personal and they're not home for lunch, not home for dinner. Like, they're going to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
No one's there to tell them to sleep. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're 17 now. You got to know when you need to sleep, when you need to eat, drink some water, like all that stuff. And you're still picking your spots when you're away and having fun, juniors. But I think that starts before that starts before they get to the NHL. Like that, it starts at the house. It starts at hockey. It starts at your sister's games or your sister's whatever they're doing. Like that's a long time coming. Like there's no chance. Look at, you mentioned Cale Makar. He came in. Now Quinn Hughes had all of last year, or
no, I think the second half he came out.
Okay, second half. You're right.
Didn't play.
Makar came. I don't know if
played a couple games in the playoffs last year.
Well, he came in they went to the Frozen Four, like in college, and he played. I can't remember if they lost in the finals or if they lost in the semis, but he had a game, and the next day he flew to Colorado or wherever they were playing. They were playing Calgary at the time, and then the next day he played his first game and scored a goal in the first period. Now that's a storybook, like that's but he didn't just like. It was leading into that. He that would have been way too much for most kids to handle. For sure. But obviously he's pretty well put together, and like he's got good parents and good upbringing, and there's more to it than just like he's super skilled and he could just jump into the NHL. Yeah. Now you might be able to get away with that for a weekend, but not the whole summer.
No, and that's the thing.
Not this year as good as he's been.
Well, that's the other thing. Like was good last year in the playoffs, obviously jumping in like that, and then has been really good this year. Like, unbelievable.
And how many people would you see have a big dip before they, like for a guy like him, like it's, I don't want to say easier, but like jumping into a playoff series like that would be easier than maintaining his
for the whole year,
whole year, which he's done. So
and you go from a college season that's like maybe 30 games, 40 games with the Frozen Four to like now playing, he's already played probably 60 something games. So that's a lot too.
Against men.
But I think that is probably one of the most important things is having a player that's mentally strong, that can deal with stuff, adversity, things like that. But then also on the skill set part of it, I mean, his skills translate at every level he's played at, obviously, and he's done a really good job at honing those skills. And what I was getting to when I asked the question, which you went on to totally
I didn't answer.
Which is awesome. No, that's a really good, but I think like a lot of these kids now are coming out of like academies or coming out of working with a skills coach for the last 4 or 5 years and doing, you know what I mean? Going to these summer training programs and things like that. You know what I mean? And I think for any player coming up right now, and I'm not saying you have to spend oodles and oodles of money on this, but I think at the end of the day, there's going to have to be some time invested in skill development, in shooting pucks at home and working out. And again, a lot of this stuff can be done on your own, but getting some advice from, like you said, an advisor, an agent, a skills coach, someone that you trust is going to give you the right advice. And I ended up talking with this a little bit with Narado, but is have a plan. So if you're a Cale Makar, your plan is going to be a lot different than, than Jack Hughes, or, you know what I mean? Than another rookie in that league that's trying to really establish himself, because you're two totally different players. You're totally different sizes. You play a different style of game, but have somebody that understands what you are, what you want to be, and how to get you there. But have some milestones in this plan as well. Like, hey, the first month, we're going to really work on your stride development. The second month, we're going to work on your quick starts and getting you quicker. And we'll also add some bunch of shooting in there. And then the third, the third piece is going to be a bunch of evasiveness and,
tell me if you worked for Colorado, and you were coming in there as a skills coach, guaranteed the coach is already talking to him, but you're having conversations with Cale being like, hey, offensively phenomenal and defensively good. You know what I mean? But if you're going to stay consistent for 10, 15, 20 years, you know what I mean? At 18, 19 years old, whatever he is, like potentially you're going to have to learn to do this, because you're getting away with these things right now, but you're also getting once a game, you're getting hammered in the corner on your own end. Sure. picking up a puck, and you're young and you're bouncing right back. So that's no problem. But man, in 5 years from now, it's going to take its toll. So you have to do what you have to get better. Hey, you ever watch some of Torrey Krug's shifts?
Yeah.
Watch how good he is at like making a little fake and then going the other way. He still gets hit a little bit, but he doesn't take on the full brunt of a hit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. I don't watch enough of his games to know, but I guarantee there's other things where they're like, hey, keep working on this, but you need to get better at this if you're going to be a true number one in the league.
Well, and I think every player
he's doing that.
Yeah. And I think every elite player needs to continuously evolve their game, right? Like you look at a Crosby, obviously he's
Joe Thornton.
Yeah. Like exactly. So you got to continue to work on areas of your game that are going to help translate. So as you are getting older, maybe you're going to be smarter. You're going to maybe skate a little bit less, but you're going to make better plays. You're going to, take better lines on things. Your mind's still the same. And now you just physically maybe can't get there as quick as you could before. But trying to set players up so that when they are young like this, they're maximizing what they have. And then the next stage, they're maximizing what they have in the next stage. And again, you look at guys like Taves, he's, phenomenal at how he's evolved and still playing, good hockey. Kane, same thing. Like, and obviously the skill set on Kane is crazy and he's still crazy skilled. Crosby's another great example of a guy who's plays both ends of the rink, great around the net and that 5 foot area around the net. He's unbelievable. And, but he's obviously like, he wasn't like that when he first came in the league. Right. So things have changed and game's getting faster. These guys are getting a bit older. They're not getting quicker. So they're figuring out how to keep up and how to play.
Kane to me is one of those few guys that just was really, really good at, not that he's better defensively than he was when he started, but he's just one of those guys that's like, don't do what he does. Like he's so good. It's not fair to the rest of the world. Yeah. Like even Crosby's like really good. Like even in the last like 2 years or so, he's kind of changed his game a little bit. He's not the most skilled player in the league anymore. He's so good at still the best at certain things. Kane's just one of those guys that's just like, I don't want to say one dimensional, but he has one thing he's so good at it, you can't stop him. Yeah. Or a guy like Taves, like started off, not great numbers. I think you were telling me, I don't know who you were talking to. This was a year or two ago, but he like totally broke down his kind of offensive game, what he was doing on the entry and what he was doing on shots and adding things to his game. Cause he's like, I want to add more offense to my, he was already one of the best defensive players and face-off guys and, penalty killers. And he was already a captain. So team guy and all that stuff. But he's like, I want to add, not that he wanted to be a 1.5 a game guy, but like add some offense to his game, be a little bit more of a shooter. And he did that. So even a guy like that, Olympic gold, Stanley Cups, was trying to,
for sure,
add something to his bag.
Yeah. And for him, one thing that I had heard talking to the skill coach that worked with him was, he found he was getting a lot of pucks, either they stick on pucks, so the puck would go in the stands, or guys were getting shin pads in front of his pucks when he's releasing them. He just wasn't getting a lot of time to shoot pucks. And when they started breaking it down and working on it, looking at game tape and things like that, he wasn't receiving the passes well. He was receiving them, but he was in an awkward spot. So you'd have to move it to shoot it. And by the time you move it, that sticks there. There's no shot lane anymore. So just honestly, one of the things which was really cool is just literally picking up passes better. And you think of a guy at that level, at that stage, what he's accomplished, just working on picking up passes and getting the puck in his shooting area better. So instead of catching and handling it, just cradling it, shooting it. But being aware of that and seeing it on game tape, we're like, you could get away with this a year, 2, 3, 4 years ago because you were a bit quicker. You got to holes that were vacant longer. Now maybe you're getting there and guys are faster. So they're getting there faster. And now that spot that you had half a second to shoot in is now half of that.
Sure, yeah.
So now you're looking at a quarter second to get it off and it's too long because now sticks on puck and puck's in the stands. So like learning, so again, we look at minor hockey. Could they be better at receiving a pass? I think so. If a guy at that stage, at that level, at that kind of, player needs to work on it, but again, it's being with the skill coach that recognizes that, knows what you want to work on, and then has basically a plan to put in place to help you get better at what you need to work on.
And with those minor hockey guys, like, hey, I know this is working now, but it's not going to work at the next level. So even though you're like, I got 40 goals already this year. I know, but it's not going to work next year. And it's not going to work the year after that. Yeah. And even Taves, like, hey, you're in the NHL. Like if someone would have told him like what you're doing right now is not going to work in 5 years when you're older and slower, like not older and slower, but just like what you said, so for those young kids, like you're at an age where you can change your game, even though it may not feel like you need to yet.
Yeah.
If you're surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
An agent, an advisor, whoever that's saying, hey, just try this. Like, don't be afraid to try new things, even though what you're doing is working.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Definitely. I think that's part of the game evolving.
Yeah.
Right. And players got to evolve with it because it is getting faster. It's getting more skilled. Things are happening
Not just
way
players.
quicker.
Are you changing? Like,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. How you teach stuff and
kind of
how
touched
you
on this
address
at the beginning,
things.
but
Yeah.
like some of the stuff that we're doing now is way different than when you were kind of teaching it to me
Definitely.
a long time ago. Like it's the game's different.
Yeah.
And there's new things and there's different ways to do it. Not all the same for everyone, but everyone's evolving.
Yeah.
So.
And it's fun. I mean, any night right now, you can click on a game and you can see like 2 to 5 high-end skill plays and crazy good players on every team pretty much. Like, as far as just even young guys that are coming in now, they're like, man, this kid's really good, and he's going to be good for a while if he continues on this trajectory,
But I do the same thing as you. Like, there's a bunch of games on and I'm looking at that game, even though I shouldn't, because there's high end guys at every game, but I'm like, oh, that's going to be that's going to be a good one. It's Boston, Pittsburgh. Like I'm turning that on for sure.
Yeah.
There's going to be something's happening. Like something
for sure.
Yeah. Like I'm going to see a couple awesome plays,
Yeah.
or
definitely.
how you come in, like first thing we say is, hey, how's it going? How's your night? Did you see the highlights from this game yesterday?
Yeah.
And then you come in your office and check out those highlights right
For
away.
sure.
Like,
Yeah.
Or it's pretty cool to see what's happening.
Oh, definitely.
These guys are doing. So
Yeah. Well, it's great. Well, listen, buddy, thanks a lot for popping by. And
Yeah, it's fun.
I'll have to sit down again with Max and we'll do we'll go through a game again. We'll tweak it out how we did last time, but we'll try to go do that again.
Try to do it
one time.
live.
Yeah. For sure. All right,
Good,
buddy.
man. That's fun.
man.
Thanks.
All right.